Yo, what's up? This is Damascius. I thought I would put out just a quick FAQ video as a follow-up to the two most recent guides that I have put out. And I thought I would go through some commonly asked questions that I have at the moment, I guess, about the spec and keys, and also probably go into the DRE build rotation a little bit more in depth. So apologies in advance. As usual, this is not going to be a professional video by any means. So it's just going to be me sitting here talking about some common questions with a bit of gameplay in the background. So first of all, I thought I'd go through the common question, which is basically which of the three builds do you play in which dungeon? Like which of the builds are better in which dungeon? So first of all, with DRE and Echoes, they are both definitely sort of viable, like everywhere pretty much. They will definitely perform well everywhere, but if you did want to min-max it, so I guess I'll just go through what I play in which dungeons. So at the moment I'm playing DRE in Grimrail, Workshop, Streets, Upper and Iron Docks, both tyrannical and fortified for those dungeons. And in the other dungeons, I'll be leaning towards Echoes usually when there's just like a lot more AoE, so dungeons like Gambit, Lower, and also Junkyard. I do want to try Echoes in Fortified Upper though. I don't think I've run Echoes in there before with Fortified, and I think it would be pretty good actually. And in terms of the third build as well that sort of popped up recently, I saw a Korean Elemental Shaman run this and do a lot of damage with it in a lower, so big shout out to that Shaman. And with the Skybreakers build, what I've found is I've concluded, I suppose, that it's sort of got a similar niche to Echoes. You know, it's mainly going to shine in large AoE scenarios. The niche of the build is that you have Storm Elemental up all the time, and it's basically Chain Lightning and Earthquake spam with 10 Wind Gust stacks a lot of the time as well. So I probably wouldn't recommend running it in tyrannical. It's the worst single target option that we have at the moment, I guess, out of those three options, I mean. But it's definitely like okay in lower and Gambit, but I feel personally, I feel like Echoes probably just does a better job like overall in those keys anyway. But you know, absolutely, if you wanted to just run something other than Echoes, if you don't like Echoes, you could definitely give Skybreakers a go. So yeah, that's my view on like what builds to play where, I suppose, at the moment. The next thing I wanted to touch on was I guess a hot topic at the moment. So how do you balance Lava Burst and Chain Lightning with the DRE build in AoE scenarios? So on 2 to 4 targets, my current feeling is that you do want to Lava Burst mainly. On 4 targets, you can maybe Chain Lightning like a little bit, but generally you're going to want a Lava Burst most of the time to build on 2 to 4 targets. On 5 targets, my feeling is that you can bring Chain Lightning into the equation a little bit, especially if you're in like a sort of specific situation like this. If you're at say 30 Maelstrom, you have finished a previous global, what do you do next? So you can Chain Lightning into a Lava Surge, that will put you at 60, and then you can Earthquake, so that's 2 globals, or you can Lava Burst 3 times, assuming you don't get a proc, and then Earthquake after that. So generally, in that scenario, it may be better to like Chain Lightning into a Lava Burst. But apart from that, in terms of like the correct balance, it is hard to say because this particular matter is not actually quantifiable currently. I'll talk about that a little bit more later on with simming, but my general feeling is that you do want to, the more Lava Burst you're doing, the more you're just sort of like gambling, I guess, for a proc. The more chain lightning you're doing, the more, I guess, confirmed earthquakes that you're going to have, but at the same time, the less you're using your legendary. So generally, I'll be, I guess, like 70 to 80% of the time lava bursting, and then the other 20 or 30% I'll be chain lightning. Now, how do you react to Primordial Wave resets, and how do you react to Aftershock procs? So Aftershock, I mean, first of all, just in general with Aftershock, you do really need to be sort of on your feet with Aftershock. You know, it can happen quite quickly. It can happen back to back. You do need to be ready to like fire off an earthquake after it if you need to. In general, you do sort of want to earthquake like quite soon after you hit 60 Maelstrom, especially with the DRE build. The reason for that is if you get a proc of DRE at like 60 or 70, oh no, sorry, if you get a proc of DRE when you're like quite high on Maelstrom and you haven't earthquaked yet, it's going to, especially if you have a lot of flame shocks out, it's going to give you a lot of Maelstrom, which probably overcap you quite a lot of Maelstrom. It could even cost you an additional earthquake. So that's why you do want to generally spend. Now, if you get an Aftershock proc after spending on like, you know, 60, 70 Maelstrom, you can probably fire off another Lava Burst after the Aftershock proc, and then after the Lava Burst, you can earthquake and it will be moat buffed. If for whatever reason, like you do kind of want to avoid this situation, but it does happen from time to time. If you are earthquaking at very high Maelstrom, like 95 or like 95 to 100, and you get an Aftershock proc, I would recommend just firing off the next earthquake, not really worrying about moat buffing it. But on single target with Aftershock, you like if you for whatever reason you're earth shocking at, you know, 95 to 100, maybe you just finished like a DRE proc window at that point, and it left you at that Maelstrom amount. You earth shock and get a Aftershock proc. I would still I would cast Lava Burst after that Aftershock proc. Like it's generally fine to overcap on single target. To moat Earth Shock, especially with the DRE build, because you want to be lava bursting a lot anyway. I just wouldn't do that on AoE. So on AoE, I would, especially if you're on high Maelstrom, just fire off the earthquakes. And Primordial Wave resets as well. This can happen that you do need, and you do need to react to it. The best time for it to happen is obviously, like, I guess, as a pull is starting, as you're spreading your flame shocks. It's quite important to kind of take advantage of the flame shock cooldown, if this makes sense. So basically, like, let's say you start a pack, you flame shock one, flame shock another, Primordial Wave another. Oh, actually, no, never mind. Let's say you flame shock, Primordial Wave one, and flame shock a third, and you fire off that triple lava burst. You get and then you also got a Primordial Wave reset. So what you're going to want to do is, for the next Primordial Wave, you want to cast a manual Flame Shock before the next one. So you do that triple one, and then after that occurs, Flame Shock a fourth target manually, and then Flame Shock a fifth target with Primordial Wave, and then fire off the, I guess, the 5 Primordial Wave Lava Burst, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. When you get a bit later into the pools though, you know, especially if you've got like DRE procs running and you've got like, you know, 5 or 6 flame shocks out, even if you're in Ascendance as well, you can just send the Primordial Wave pretty much straight away. Like if you get a reset, it's not really worth. It's only worth kind of taking advantage of the duration of the Unity buff on pure single target. But on AoE, you can pretty much just like send it as soon as you get the reset. So hopefully that clears that up. Now I'll just move on quickly to Storm Elemental DRE. This is something that I I guess, tested a week or two ago. It's definitely viable, I guess, in general, but what I've concluded is that it's generally like you're only going to want to run it in Tyrannical Workshop and Upper. The reason for that is it sims quite comfortably higher than moat DRE on pure single target. But when you bring sort of AoE pulls into the equation, it does start to get a little bit tricky and counterintuitive rather. So yes, it's definitely a viable pick in Tyrannical Workshop or Upper, because it is definitely more single target than moat. So only in those two specific dungeons would I consider running SE DRE. Now moving on to stats, it's still like a common question that gets asked a lot, even in the Earthshrine Discord and that sort of thing. I touched on it in my previous guides that I do generally get the feeling that people are really kind of just stressing too much about their stats. Like it really, like generally all of the 4 stats are good for us. There is a priority. Generally crit and haste are going to be the best in Mythic Plus. However, like the other 2 are still decent, especially on single target. Mastery is actually pretty good. So I really wouldn't worry too much. Like if you can try and get mostly crit and haste, then that's good. But the reality is you're going to end up getting to a key level anyway if you do really high keys where you need to kind of forego that and you need to just go for versatility anyway to survive. So when you get to that point, it really doesn't matter. You're just going for verse anyway. As long as you don't have like a lot of mastery, like you should be fine, and I really wouldn't stress about it too much. Now, what do you do when Ascendance procs in single target and AoE? So in single target, I did mention this, I believe, in the last video. You just lava burst. Like you do not spend Earthshock during a DRE proc on single target. You overcap, just keep lava bursting. You can also do this on 2 targets, but only if there is like a hard priority target. So the 2 mobs that we actually killed in this footage, like before you enter the train area, the 2 bombardiers, I think they're called. On a week like Raging Necrotic, it's possible that your tank is going to want the group to focus 1 down first, in which case if you get a DRE proc, you'd probably just want to like lava burst 1 and also overcap on lava bursting that one, because that's going to be more like single target and priority. Oh, I'm dead. Single target priority damage to that 1 target. But if other than that, if it's 2 or more targets and you get a proc of Ascendance, you still Earthquake, and then you're gonna want to lava burst to build. Especially if there's a priority target. However, if there are 5 or more targets, you can lava beam a little bit. So lava beam is like decent. However, again, like if there is any sort of a priority target in a pack of like 5 or more, even, you may just want to lava burst that target if you're in a DRE window, even in OA. But you can still like spend Earthquake when you get to 60. Or maybe not when you get to 60. Like if you're in a DRE proc and you get to 60, but it's still, the proc is still going for like 2 or 3 seconds, you can lava burst a couple more times and then spend the Earthquake. So I'm going to move on to simming for DRE now. So I was chatting to Ania today. He is, as I make this video, currently the rank 1 Elemental Shaman for Mythic Plus. He was having a look at the DRE APL, and he was a little, as I am as well, a little skeptical of a couple of things that people have said in like the Earthshrine Discord and that sort of thing about what exactly you should be doing in AoE scenarios when you run DRE. Currently, there's no APL for DRE and AoE. I inquired about this a while ago, I believe. I was told that they, and by they, it turns out actually just one person, I think, I was told that they, I guess, dabbled in some DRE AoE APLs, and they tried to see what they could do. They could not get results that suggested that lava bursting at all was good in AoE. So Anya and myself obviously were quite skeptical of this. He himself had a look at like the current APL, I guess, that DRE uses. If you were to sim it on AoE, he found that the APL does not cast Flame Shock beyond 3 targets, which is obviously a major issue. And he also found that on AoE, it does not use Primordial Wave immediately after getting a reset, which you should be on AoE generally, amongst other things. But the primary major thing was that it does not Flame Shock beyond 3 targets. And one can assume that this was carried over in their sort of APL testing that they did. So this APL testing was not done by a group of people, from SEL or SEVs or anything. I believe it was just done by 1 or 2 people. So what I guess Aina and I have concluded is that take what people say with a grain of salt in terms of what to do in AoE scenarios with DRE, because it is not currently quantifiable, and I don't think it will become quantifiable, because I have chatted to some of the SEL guys, and it's very unlikely that an APL will be created. Dragonflight is rolling around in a few months. It's a niche build, so it's unlikely that an APL is going to be created. So I suppose in my guides and in this video, like I've gone through what I think is right, but if you have any other insights about it, definitely let me know. It kind of brings me to my next point as well, which was moat. So like in the sims, currently, the person I was talking to in Earththrone was saying that moat should not be used at all in AoE scenarios if you are talented into moat. I was a little bit sort of, I guess, skeptical of that. Like I wasn't really sure about that, especially with the DRE build as well. So it is possible that when they were testing DRE APLs, this was carried over into that, and not modding earthquakes with the DRE build in AoE is like very, very rare, right? And you definitely want to be doing that a lot of the time. So yeah, that's simming, I guess. Unfortunately, we can't really do much for simming this build in AoE. If anyone, I know a couple of people that have tried to test some things with the APL. Personally, myself, unfortunately, I'm not very well versed with testing APLs and adding lines and adding conditions and that sort of thing, but a couple of people I know have done that with respect to DRE. So if you're one of them, or if you've done this, definitely just let me know. Maybe we might figure some things out. I think it's definitely quite difficult. I mean, simming for M+ is difficult in general for most specs anyway, but especially when you don't really have a functioning APL for like that sort of, I guess, replicates the actual style of play that you do with the build, if that makes sense. So the last question I just wanted to touch on briefly was the Skybreakers AoE rotation and sort of how you play that legendary in key. So it has popped up as a viable option. Again, shout out to that top Korean Elemental Shaman who I saw playing it. He was definitely blasting with it. So in terms of the rotation for it, there's really not much to say, I guess. Like, it's just the general rotation, especially on AoE. Especially on single target, I mean. Nothing much to say about single target, but on AoE, like I said earlier, it's pretty much like a lot of it is chain lightning earthquake spam. A lot of the time you're going to be on 10 wind gust stacks as well. And yeah, like it's not amazing single target. so I wouldn't recommend playing it on single like in tyrannical or anything like that. The only thing that I would mention is, now this is another thing that is I don't think it's currently quantifiable, maybe it will be, but in AoE scenarios with this, when you're running Skybreakers, what you can actually do is, if you're in an AoE pack and Eye of the Storm is coming up, you can Eye of the Storm, and then immediately after the Eye of the Storm ends, dismiss your Storm melee, summon a new Storm melee, wait for it to buff Core Lightning, and then Eye of the Storm again. So you kind of do two Eye of the Storms back to back effectively. However, when you do this, you obviously lose your 10 Wind Gust stacks. So it's a bit of a trade-off. So I'm not sure what is going on here with this boss. Where is it going? Okay. So yeah, I'm not too sure if that's worth doing. I think it might be getting that sort of back-to-back Eye of the Storm. But if you have any other thoughts about that, definitely let me know. So that's pretty much it at the moment. Like that's all the sort of like main common questions I could think of, I suppose, as a follow-up to the two guides that I put out, and as a follow-up to, I guess, just what's happening at the moment with the spec and keys. If I've missed anything, or if you have any other questions, let me know. I'd be keen to have a go at answering them. And I guess before I go, I just wanted to also just thank the recent support that I'm getting on Twitch and YouTube. I've been completely blown away by the support. I really appreciate everyone and the community that I have. It's really, really cool, and I appreciate everyone. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. I guess I will see you guys in the next video or stream. Thanks guys, see you later.